Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudire Nashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevya Bhagavati Uttam Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. So continuing with the discussion on Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 7, today we are starting new chapter, chapter 4. Hiranyakashipu terrorizes the universe. So the biggest terrorist in the history. Normally terrorists just throw bombs here or there and that's about it. But he terrorized the whole universe. Wow. Shri Narad Vacha Evam Brita Shatadhritir Hiranyakashipo Ratha Pradat Tapasa Prito Varastasya Sudurlabhan. Narad Muni continued. So Narad Muni is speaking to Yudhishthir Maharaj. Lord Brahma was very much satisfied by Hiranyakashipu's austerities, which were very difficult to perform. Therefore, when solicited for benedictions, he indeed granted them, although they were rarely to be achieved. Shri Brahma Vacha Tate me durlabha punsam yan vrinishe varanamam tathapi vitaram yanga varanyatyapi durlabhan. Lord Brahma said, O Hiranyakashipu, these benedictions for which you have asked are difficult to obtain for most men. Nonetheless, O my son, I shall grant you them, although they are generally not available. Material benedictions are not always exactly worthy of being called benedictions. If one possesses more and more, a benediction itself will become a curse. For just as achieving material opulence in this material world requires great strength and endeavor, maintaining it also requires great endeavor. Lord Brahma informed Hiranyakashipu that although he was ready to offer him whatever he had asked, the result of the benedictions would be very difficult for Hiranyakashipu to maintain. Nonetheless, since Brahma had promised he wanted to grant all the benedictions asked, the word Durlabhan indicates that one should not take benedictions. One cannot enjoy peacefully. But generally, when we are asking for benedictions, we don't care for peace or not. We just want to enjoy. But the result of material benedictions is always bad. Many reasons. First, if we get some material benedictions, we become proud, we become powerful, we start offending people, we start making enemies, we start becoming attached to our possessions because of the benedictions. And more we get attached, more we become fearful, more we become envious, and more rebirths will happen because of our attachment and the desires. So material benedictions, one should not actually ask. And that is why Bhagavatam says, even if one has to ask, one should ask Krishna. Because Krishna is not just going to fulfill the desires, material desires of anybody, just like here Brahmaji did. And when Lord Nrsimhadev killed Hiranyakashipu, and Nrsimhadev was very angry, and we'll read about it. Brahmaji, Shivji, all the demigods, Lakshmiji was there. They all approached, but Nrsimhadev was very angry. Nobody could pacify him. And then they just pushed Prahlad Maharaj. Hey, he became angry for you. He came to help you. You just go and pacify him. So when Prahlad Maharaj went, obviously Nrsimhadev, out of his fatherly affection for Prahlad Maharaj, he became very pacified. And then there is a long conversation, and then Nrsimhadev tells Brahmaji, don't give these kind of benedictions again to anybody. So means if If Hiranyakashipu had prayed to Lord Vishnu for these benedictions, definitely he would have found a way not to give him these benedictions. Or he would have purified his heart. And then all the benedictions are okay. If one's heart is purified, then any material benediction is okay. Because a person will not misuse it. Tato jagam bhagwan mogbhanugriho vibhu pujito asur varena stuya mana prajeshvara. Then Lord Brahma, who awards infallible benedictions, departed, being worshipped by the best of the demons, Hiranyakashipu, and being praised by great sages and saintly persons. Evam labdhavaro daityo vibhradhe mayam vipapuhu bhagvati akaro dadvesham bhratur vadham anusmaram. The demon Hiranyakashipu, having thus been blessed by Lord Brahma and having acquired a lustrous golden body, continued to remember the death of his brother and therefore be envious of Lord Vishnu. Previous chapter, he was giving such nice instructions to his mother, to Hiranyaksha's wife, Hiranyaksha's children, but now he got really envious. A demoniac person, in spite of acquiring all the opulences possible to obtain in this universe, continues to be envious of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That's why they are demons. Savijitya disha sarva lokan shatrin mahasura devasur manushendra gandharva garudoragan siddha charana vidyadran rishin pitripatin manun yaksha raksha pishacheshan preta bhutapatin api sarva sattva patin jitva vashamaniya vishwajit jahar lokapalanam sthanani sahatejasa. Hiranyakashipu became the conqueror of the entire universe. Indeed, that great demon conquered all the planets in the three worlds, upper, middle, and lower, including the planets of the human beings, the Gandharvas, the Garudas, the great serpents, the Siddhas, Charans, and Vidyadhars, the great saints, Yamaraj, the Manus, the Yakshas, the Rakshasas, and the Pishachas, and their masters, and the masters of the ghosts and Bhutas. So he even conquered Yamalok. He defeated the rulers of all other planets where there are living entities and brought them under his control. Conquering the abodes of all, he seized their power and influence. The word Garuda in this verse indicates that there are planets of great birds like Garuda. Similarly, the word Urag indicates that there are planets of enormous serpents. Such a description of the various planets of the universe may challenge modern scientists who think that all planets but this Earth are vacant. These scientists claim to have launched excursions to the moon where they have found no living entities, but only big craters full of dust and stone. Although in fact the moon is so brilliant that it acts like the sun in illuminating the entire universe. Of course, it is not possible to convince modern scientists of the Vedic information about the universe. Nonetheless, we are not very much impressed by the words of scientists who say that all other planets are vacant and that only the Earth is full of living entities. So here in this shloka, it is clear that all the planets have living entities, different kinds of living entities. But the modern scientists, they haven't found anything or they don't have the eyes, proper instruments to see. So they say, oh no, all of the planets are vacant. Next it. Devo dhyana shriya jushta madhyaste smatripistipam Mahendra Bhavanam Sakshat Nirmitam Vishwakarmana Trailokya Lakshmi Ayatanam Yatam Madhyu Vasa Akhilardhanat. Hiranyakashipu, who possessed all opulence, began residing in heaven with its famous Nandan garden, which is enjoyed by the demigods. In fact, he resided in the most opulent palace of Indra, the king of heaven. The palace had been directly constructed by the demigod architect Vishwakarma and was as beautifully made as if the goddess of fortune of the entire universe resided there. Wow, what kind of opulence Indra has, but even that planet and the palace was taken over by Hiranyakashipu. From this description, it appears that all the heavenly planets of the upper planetary system are thousands upon thousands of times more opulent than the lower planetary system in which we live. Vishwakarma, the famous heavenly architect, is known as a constructor of many wonderful buildings in the upper planets, where there are not only beautiful buildings, but also many opulent gardens and parks, which are described as Nandan Devodyan, gardens quite fit to be enjoyed by the demigods. This description of the upper planetary system and its opulences is to be understood from authoritative scriptures like the Vedic literatures. Telescopes and the other imperfect instruments of scientists are inadequate for evaluating the upper planetary system. Although such instruments are needed because the vision of the so-called scientists is imperfect, the instruments themselves are also imperfect. Therefore, the upper planets cannot be appraised by imperfect men using imperfect man-made instruments. Direct information received from the Vedic literature, however, is perfect. We cannot therefore accept the statement that there are no opulent residences on planets other than this earth. And this is what Hiranyakashipu had taken over. Also, there is no mention of him taking over Brahmaloka because he never went there out of respect for Lord Brahma. Yatra vidrum sopana mahamarkata bhava yatra svatik kudyani vedurya stambha pankaya yatra chitra vitanani padma raga sanani cha paya fena nibha shaya mukta dam parichada kujad bhir nupur devya shabdayantya itastata Ratnasthilishu Pashyanti Sudati Sundaram Mukham Tasmin Mahendra Bhavane Mahabalo Mahamana Nirjit Loka Ekarata Reme Abhivandyang Kri Yugha Suradidhi Pratapiter Rujit Chanda Shasana. The steps of King Indra's residence were made of coral. The floor was bedecked with invaluable emeralds. The walls were of crystal and the columns of Vedurya stone. The wonderful canopies were beautifully decorated. The seats were bedecked with rubies and the silk bedding, as white as foam, was decorated with pearls. The ladies of the palace were blessed with beautiful teeth and the most wonderfully beautiful faces walked here and there in the palace, their ankle bells tinkling melodiously, and saw their own beautiful reflections in the gems. The demigods, however, being very much oppressed, had to bow down and offer obeisances at the feet of Hiranyakashipu, who chastised the demigods very severely and for no reason. Thus Hiranyakashipu lived in the palace and severely ruled everyone. Wow. Even the demigods had to bow down and offer obeisances at the feet of Hiranyakashipu, and they got chastised for no reason. Hiranyakashipu was so powerful in the heavenly planets that all the demigods, except Lord Brahma, Shiva, and Vishnu, were forced to engage in his service. Indeed, they were afraid of being severely punished if they disobeyed. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has compared Hiranyakashipu to Maharaj Vena, who was so atheistic and scornful of the ritualistic ceremonies mentioned in the Vedas. Yet Maharaj Vena was afraid of some of the great sages such as Bhrigu, whereas Hiranyakashipu ruled in such a way that everyone feared him but Lord Vishnu, Lord Brahma, and Lord Shiva. Hiranyakashipu was so alert against being burnt to ashes by the anger of great sages like Bhrigu that by dint of austerity he surpassed their power and placed even them under his subordination. It appears that even in the higher planetary systems to which people are promoted by pious activities, disturbances are created by asuras like Hiranyakashipu. No one in the three worlds can live in peace and prosperity without disturbance. So the disturbance will always be there. Material world means padam, padam, yata vipadam, natesham. There is disturbance, there is danger at every step. And Hiranyakashipu, he learned from Vena's example and he made sure even the great sages, they were put under subordination. And he had asked for all these benedictions that he cannot be killed inside or outside, on earth, in the air. So sages could not do anything. Tamangamattam madhunuru gandhina vivrit tamraksham me shesha dishmyapa upasato payana pani bhairavina tribhis tapo yoga balo jasam padam. Oh, my dear king, Hiranyakashipu was always drunk on strong smelling wines and liquors, and therefore his coppery eyes were always rolling. Nonetheless, because he had powerfully executed great austerities and mystic yoga, although he was abominable, all but the three principal demigods, Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, Lord Vishnu, personally worshipped him to please him by bringing him various presentations with their own hands. So all the principal demigods worshipped him to please him by bringing him various presentations. And just see, just few years back, he was performing tapasya, so 100 celestial years. Tapasya means no eating, no drinking, no sleeping, nothing, no beating up anybody, no killing. Even the ants ate up his body. And now he became so proud of his powers that he is drinking liquors and wines and making the demigods his own personal servants. So this is demons. This is demonic mentality. In the Skanda Puran, there is this description: Upayanam dadu sarva vina devan hiranyaka. Hiranyakashipu was so powerful that everyone but the three principal demigods, namely Brahma, Shiva, Vishnu, engaged in his service. Madhvacharya says there are three kinds of demigods: the Adityas, the Vasus, and the Rudras, beneath whom are the other demigods, like the Maruts and Sadhyas. Therefore, all the demigods are called the three Pishtak, and the same word, three, applies to Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, and Lord Vishnu. Okay, let's read further. What gifts he was getting. Jagur Mahendra Sanam Ojasastitam Mishva Vasustumbaru Rasmad Dadaya Gandharva Siddharishyo Astuvan Muhur Vidyadharascha Apsarashascha Pandava. O Maharaj Yudhishthira, descendant of Pandu, by dint of his personal power, Hiranyakashipu, being situated on the throne of King Indra, controlled the inhabitants of all the other planets. The two Gandharvas, Vishwasu and Tumbaru, I myself and the Vidyadhars, Apsaras and sages, all offered prayers to him again and again just to glorify him. But why Narad Muni? Narad Muni is a spiritual master of everybody. But out of respect for the benedictions of Brahmaji, even Narad Muni was glorifying him. The asuras sometimes become so powerful that they can engage even Narad Muni and similar devotees in their service. This does not mean that Narad was subordinate to Hiranyakashipu. Sometimes, however, it so happens in this material world that great personalities, even great devotees, can also be controlled by the asuras. Just like Rupa and Sanatan Goswami, they were serving under Nawab Hussain Shah. स एव वर्णाश्रमभिः कृतुभिर्भूरि दक्षिणः युज्यमानो हविर्भागान् गृहीत स्वेन तेजसा. Being worshipped by sacrifices offered with great gifts by those who strictly followed the principles of Varna and Ashram. Hiranyakashipu, instead of offering shares of the oblations to the demigods, accepted them himself. So demigods were not even getting their share of the yagyas. So they were getting weaker and weaker. Akrishtapachya tasyasit saptadvipavati mahi tadha kama dugha gavo nanascharya padam nabha. As if in fear of Hiranyakashipu, the planet Earth, which consists of 7 islands, delivered food grains without being plowed. Thus it resembled cows like the Surabhi of the spiritual world or the Kam Duga of heaven. The earth yielded sufficient food grains. The cows supplied abundant milk, and outer space was beautifully decorated with wonderful phenomena. So out of fear, even Mother Earth gave everything that he needed without being plowed. So there are 2 ways, out of fear or out of love. And this was out of fear. Out of love for devotees, he also gives plenty. But here it was fear element. Ratna karascha ratno ghas tatpatanyaschohurum mibhi kshar siddhu dhrita kshodra dadhi kshiramritodakaha. By the flowing of their waves, the various oceans of the universe, along with their tributaries, the rivers, which are compared to their wives, supplied various kinds of gems and jewels for Hiranyakashipu's use. These oceans were the oceans of salt water, sugarcane juice, wine, clarified butter, milk, yogurt, and sweet water. So we have read about these 7 oceans when the description of the universe was going on. The water of the seas and the oceans of this planet of which we have experience are salty. But other planets within the universe contain oceans of sugarcane juice, liquor, ghee, milk, and sweet water, and yogurt also. The rivers are figuratively described as wives of the oceans and seas because they glide down to the oceans and seas as tributaries, like the wives attached to their husbands. Modern scientists attempt excursion to other planets, but they have no information of how many different types of oceans and seas there are within the universe. According to their experience, the moon is full of dust, but this does not explain how it gives soothing rays from a distance of millions of miles. As far as we are concerned, we follow the authority of Vyasadeva and Shukdev Goswami, who have described the universal situation according to the Vedic literature. These authorities differ from modern scientists who conclude from the imperfect sensual experience that only this planet is inhabited by living beings, whereas other planets are all vacant or full of dust. So from different oceans, different rivers, everybody was presenting him gems and jewels and other items for his use. Shaila dronir bhira kridam sarvartushu gunan drumah tathar lokapalanam meka eva prithak gunan. The valleys between the mountains became fields of pleasure for Hiranyakashipu, by whose influence all the trees and plants produced fruits and flowers profusely in all seasons. Even in winter season, they would produce fruits and flowers. The qualities of pouring water, drying, and burning, which are all qualities of the three departmental heads of the universe, namely Indra, Vayu, and Agni, were all directed by Hiranyakashipu alone, without assistance from the demigods. It is said in the beginning of Srimad Bhagavatam, Tejo Vari Mridan Yatha Vinimaya. This material world is conducted by fire, water, and earth, which combine and take shape. Here it is mentioned that the three modes of nature, Prithak Guna, act under the direction of different demigods. For example, King Indra is in charge of pouring water, the demigod Vayu controls the air and dries up the water, whereas the demigod controlling fire burns everything. Hiranyakashipu, however, by dint of his austere performance of mystic yoga, became so powerful that he alone took charge of everything without assistance from the demigods. Means he was doing all the creation, whatever he wanted, the way he wanted. So we can only imagine the chaos he must have created. Sa itham nirjita kakubbe karang vishayan priyan yathopajosham bhunjano natripyad ajitendriya. In spite of achieving the power to control in all directions, and in spite of enjoying all types of dear sense gratification as much as possible, Hiranyakashipu was dissatisfied because instead of controlling his senses, he remained their servant. So this is the pinprick of every materialistic person. He can never be satisfied because he does not control the senses. He remains their servant. And Prabhupada says, this is an asuric example of asuric life. Atheists can advance materially and create an extremely comfortable situation for the senses. But because they are controlled by the senses, they cannot be satisfied. This is the effect of modern civilization. Materialists are very much advanced in enjoying money and women. Yet dissatisfaction prevails within human society because human society cannot be happy and peaceful without Krishna consciousness. As far as material sense gratification is concerned, materialists may go on increasing their enjoyment as far as they can imagine. But because people in such a material condition are servants of their senses, they cannot be satisfied. Hiranyakashipu was a vivid example of this dissatisfied state of humanity. So this is what happens with the materialists. They go on increasing their enjoyment, and to satisfy their enjoyment, to be happy, they develop or they invent so many things, but still cannot be happy because the senses, this is how the senses are designed. They can never be satisfied by material things. They desire more and more and more and more and more and more. Because ultimately they desire Krishna's lotus feet. But because we are trying to enjoy without that, we cannot be happy. Once we achieve that, we don't need anything else. Nothing else we need except his lotus feet, his holy name, his service. That's all we need. And that is why materialists call devotees that you are crazy, and devotees call materialists that you are crazy. From their viewpoint, everybody's crazy. Because devotees, why are you wasting your time? You'll never be happy. And materialists say, you're lazy, you're ignorant, you don't even know How much is there in the material world? Devotees, we don't care. We don't want to know. We don't need to know. But this fight will always go on. So Hiranyakashipu, he was not at all satisfied. Just imagine, he had the whole universe. We just aspire to have a little house, thinking if I have this house, I'll be happy, I'll be satisfied. If I have this car, if I have this job, if I have this wife, if I have this husband, if my son or daughter, they are married or very well educated, I'll be satisfied. We'll never be satisfied. Not by those fulfillment of those material desires. Only by engaging in the service of Krishna, who is Rishikesha. He is the controller of the senses. When we engage our senses in his service, we can be satisfied. And more we are engaging our senses, then it depends what permutation, what percentage we are using in Krishna's service, what percentage in our service. To that extent, we'll always remain satisfied, whatever percentage we are using in Krishna's service. Evam Aishwarya Mattasya Driptasya Shastravartina Kalo Mahanivyatiyaya Brahma Shapamapeyushaha. Hiranyakashipu thus passed a long time being very much proud of his opulences and transgressing the laws and regulations mentioned in authoritative shastras. They were subjected to a curse by the 4 Kumaras, who were great Brahmins. There have been many instances in which demons, after achieving material opulences, have become extremely proud, so much so that they have transgressed the laws and regulations given in the authoritative shastras. Hiranyakashipu acted in this way. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, he who disregards scriptural injunctions and acts according to his own whims attains neither perfection nor happiness nor the supreme destination. The word Shastra refers to that which controls our activities. We cannot violate or transgress the laws and regulatory principles mentioned in the Shastras. But here we don't even have faith in the Shastras. We say, oh, it's all mythology, it's all written by some sadhus who had nothing better to do. So what is there violating and transgressing? Just like eating meat. Eating meat is a violation of the rule of the Shastra. And they will say, oh, see, they just cut up an animal, or especially they cut up a cow and eat the meat right in front and saying, see, I didn't get punished. Your Shastras are not correct. Your scriptures are false. If I transgressed any rule, I should be punished. So where does it say he will be punished according to his demands? He'll be punished in due course of time. Not whenever and howsoever he wants. But the Shastras always come true. Bhagavad Gita repeatedly confirms this. One should understand what is duty and what is not duty by the regulations of the scriptures. Knowing such rules and regulations, one should act so that he may gradually be elevated. One should act according to the directions of the Shastras, but the material energy is so powerful that as soon as one becomes materially opulent, he begins to transgress the Shastric laws. As soon as one transgresses the laws of the Shastra, he immediately enters upon the path of destruction. So this is what happens. So as soon as we transgress, he immediately enters upon the path of destruction. When he will be punished, that's up to Krishna or Yamaraj to decide. तस्योग्र दंड संविघ्न सर्वे लोका सपालका अन्यत्र लब्ध शरणम ययुरच्युतम. Everyone, including the rulers of the various planets, was extremely distressed because of the severe punishment inflicted upon them by Hiranyakashipu. Fearful and disturbed, unable to find any other shelter, they at last surrendered to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu. So this is what devotees or demigods do. They just take shelter of the lotus feet of Lord Vishnu. Lord Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Bhoktaram Yakyatapasam. The sages, knowing me as the ultimate purpose of all sacrifice and austerities, the Supreme Lord of all planets and demigods, and the benefactor and well-wisher of all living entities, attains peace from the pangs of material miseries. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, is actually the best friend of everyone. In a condition of distress or misery, one wants to seek shelter of a well-wishing friend. The well-wishing friend of the perfect order is Lord Shri Krishna. Therefore, all the inhabitants of the various planets, being unable to find any other shelter, were obliged to seek shelter at the lotus feet of the Supreme Friend, Krishna. If from the very beginning we seek shelter of the Supreme Friend, there will be no cause of danger. It is said that if a dog is swimming in the water and one wants to cross the ocean by catching hold of the dog's tail, certainly he is foolish. Similarly, if in distress one seeks shelter of a demigod, he is foolish, for his efforts will be fruitless. In all circumstances, one should seek shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Then there will be no danger under any circumstances. Either there will be no danger, or we will get plenty of strength to face any danger. So this is the benefit of taking shelter of the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord. So demigods are praying, Tasya namostu kasthaya yatratma haririshvara yadyatva nivartante shanta sanyasino amala itita sanyatatmana samahit adiyo amalaha upatasthur hirishikesham vinidra vayu bhojanaha. Let us offer our respectful obeisances unto that direction where the Supreme Personality of Godhead is situated, where those purified souls in the renounced order of life, the great saintly persons, go, and from which, having gone, they never return. Without sleep, fully controlling their minds and living on only their breath, the predominating deities of the various planets began worshipping Rishikesha with this meditation. See, this is the beauty of demigod. Any problem, they just take shelter. The two words tasyai kashthai are very significant. Everywhere, in every direction, in every heart, and in every atom, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is situated in his features as Brahman and Paramatma. Then what's the purpose of saying tasyai kashthai? In that direction where Hari is situated. During Hiranyakashipu's time, his influence was everywhere, but he could not force his influence into the places where the Supreme Personality of Godhead had his pastimes. For example, on this earth, there are such places as Vrindavan and Ayodhya, which are called dhams. In the dham, there is no influence from Kali Yuga or any other demon. Any demon. If one takes shelter of such a dham, worship of the Lord becomes very easy, and resultant spiritual advancement quickly takes place. In fact, in India, one may still go to Vrindavan and similar places to achieve the results of spiritual activities quickly. So they paid obeisances to the direction where the Supreme Lord is situated. So one can say, this is what most people say, oh, Lord is everywhere. Bhagwan to jag ke kan kan mein vidyaman hai. Yeah, hai, but so He's also in Vrindavan. He's also in Ayodhya. He's also in Jagannath Puri or Dwarka. He's there. He's in the deity form in all the temples. He's there. So the devotees, they always pray to the personal form of the Lord. Tesham avir bhudvani arupa meghani swanam sannadayanti kakubha sadhu nam bhayankari. Then there appeared before them a transcendental sound vibration emanating from a personality not visible to material eyes. The voice was as grave as the sound of a cloud, and it was very encouraging, driving away all fear. So this is the Supreme Lord. He is always there to take care of his devotees. Ma bhashta vibhuddha shrestha sarvesham bhadramastu vaham maddarshanam hi bhutanam sarvashreyopapatte gyatametasya doratnyam daiteyapsadasya yat tasya shantim karishyami kalam tavat pratikshata. The voice of the Lord vibrated as follows: O best of learned persons, do not fear. O best of learned persons, do not fear. I wish all good fortune to you. Become my devotees by hearing and chanting about me and offering me prayers, for these are certainly meant to award benedictions to all living entities. I know all about the activities of Hiranyakashipu and shall surely stop them very soon. Please wait patiently until that time. So basically, even in this time of coronavirus, which is a deadly virus, has killed so many people, so many devotees as well. So we should just learn from these words of the Lord. O best of learned persons, do not fear. I wish all good fortune. Become my devotees by hearing and chanting about me and offering me prayers. For these are certainly meant to award benedictions to all living entities. I know all about the activities of Corona and surely stop them very soon. Please wait patiently until that time. So we got to have patience, determination, and enthusiasm in performing our devotion service, hearing and chanting, and have faith. The Lord will take care. Sometimes people are very much eager to see God. In considering the word Mad Darshanam, seeing me, which is mentioned in this verse, one should note that in Bhagavad Gita, the Lord says, Bhaktya Mam Abhijanati. In other words, the ability to understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead or to see Him or talk with Him depends on one's advancement in devotional service, which is called bhakti. In bhakti, there are 9 different activities: Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam. Because all these devotional activities are absolute, there is no fundamental difference between worshipping the deity in the temple, seeing Him, and chanting His glories. Indeed, all of these are ways of seeing Him, for everything done in devotional service is a means of direct contact with the Lord. The vibration of the Lord's voice appeared in the presence of all the devotees, and although the person vibrating the sound was unseen to them, they were meeting or seeing the Lord because they were offering prayers and because the vibrations of the Lord was present. Contrary to the laws of the material world, there is no difference between seeing the Lord, offering prayers, and hearing the transcendental vibrations. Pure devotees, therefore, are fully satisfied by glorifying the Lord. Such glorification is called kirtan. Performing kirtan and hearing the vibration of the sound, Hare Krishna, is actually seeing the Supreme Personality of Godhead directly. One must realize this position, and then one will be able to understand the absolute nature of the Lord's activities. So all we have to do is keep on performing our our devotion service, our activities or devotion services with determination, sincerity, with faith, and the Lord will answer the prayers. Lord will take care of the devotees. Yada deveshu vedeshu goshu vipreshu sadhushu dharme mai cha vidvesha savashu vinashati. When one is envious of the demigods who represent the Supreme Personality of Godhead, of the Vedas, which give all knowledge, of the cows, Brahmins, Vaishnavas, and religious principles, and ultimately of me, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he and his civilization will be vanquished without delay. So that is a promise of the Lord Himself. Nirvairaya prashantaya swasutaya mahatmane prahadaya yada duryed dhanishe api varorjitam. When Hiranyakashipu teases a great devotee Prahlad, his own son, who is peaceful and sober and who has no enemy, I shall kill Hiranyakashipu immediately, despite the benedictions of Brahma. Of all sinful activities, an offense to a pure devotee or a Vaishnava is the most severe. An offense at the lotus feet of a Vaishnava is so disastrous that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has compared it to a mad elephant that enters a garden and causes great havoc by uprooting many plants and trees. If one is an offender at the lotus feet of a Brahman or a Vaishnava, his offenses uproot all his auspicious activities. One should therefore very carefully guard against committing Vaishnava aparadha or offenses at the lotus feet of a Vaishnava. Here the Lord clearly says that although Hiranyakashipu had received benedictions from Lord Brahma, these benedictions would be null and void as soon as he committed an offense at the lotus feet of Prahlad Maharaj, his own son. A Vaishnava like Prahlad Maharaj is described here as Nirvaira, having no enemies. Elsewhere in Srimad Bhagavatam is said, Ajat Shatrava Shanta Sadva Sadhu Bhusha. A devotee has no enemies. He is peaceful. He abides by the scriptures and all his characteristics are sublime. A devotee does not create enmity with anyone. But if someone becomes his enemy, that person will be vanquished by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, despite whatever benedictions he may have received from other sources. Hiranyakashipu was certainly enjoying the fruitive results of his austerities. But here the Lord says that as soon as he committed an offense at the lotus feet of Prahlad Maharaj, he would be ruined. One's longevity, opulence, beauty, education, and whatever else one may possess as a result of pious activities cannot protect one if one commits an offense at the lotus feet of a Vaishnava. Despite whatever one possesses, if one offends the lotus feet of a Vaishnava, he will be vanquished. That's for sure. So, in case of all the demons, whether it is Hiranyakashipu, Hiranyaksha, Kansa, Ravan, Kumkara, they were all given a chance to associate with devotee, to serve a devotee. Ravan had kidnapped Mother Sita. He could have served Mother Sita, and he would have been saved. But no. Kansa, he had imprisoned Devaki and Vasudeva, parents of Krishna. He could have served them. And Krishna would have definitely pardoned him or given him everything. The kingdom of Mathura, everything would have had. But no. Hiranyaksha, Mother Earth, he took Mother Earth under in the water of Garbhodak Sagar, where he could have served Mother Earth. She's a devotee of Krishna. But no, this is the problem with the demons. They not only don't want to serve devotees, but they want to commit offenses against devotees. And this is something the Lord cannot tolerate. Although the whole story started between Narad Muni and Maharaj Yudhishthira about how the Lord is neutral. Because the question was, how come he killed, what's his name, Shishupal? And he favored Yudhishthira Maharaj and the other devotees. But Narad Muni also says, the Lord is neutral. But these demons, they commit so many mistakes and they commit offenses. So the Lord is bound to protect his devotees. So we'll stop here and we'll read further this story tomorrow. Anybody has any questions or comments? Okay, so we'll stop here. You all have a safe and wonderful day. Hare Krishna. Hare Shri Prabhupada.